Hi everyone, my name is Morgan and I am here to talk about the launch of the new male fragrance by Hermes. It is called H24, or I believe in French H24. So this new male fragrance is released 15 years after the last one. That was Terre, created by Jean-Claude Ellena, and this new one is created by the current in-house perfumer Christine Nagel. Now, given the long gap in between, I believe this is what built up a lot of excitement, and it has caused it to kind of go out of stock at certain countries that it was released in, such as Hong Kong at the time of recording. And I was lucky enough to get a bottle last week when it arrived here in Singapore. So just a shout out to Matthew from Marina Bay Sands for giving me an additional travel size version as well, which I will kind of show you over here later on. So just to talk a little bit about the perfume, I kind of wanted to express some of my opinions over here and review, as well as some observations that I didn't see reflected in other reviews and articles as well. So without further ado, let's get into the perfume in itself. So the perfume retails for 192 Singapore dollars for the 100 ml version, and it is really meant in terms of its concept to be about the modern Hermes man that moves through the city and time, who is aware of his environment. Now this is reflected in the box over here. Obviously the cement grey as well as the hint of zesty neon green is a nod to both the natural element as well as the urban element of the perfume. H stands for Hermes as well as hours, and homme, which is French for male, and then the 24 is a nod to the address as well as the 24 hours in the clock. Now going to the back, you will actually see a diagram for refill. So they do sell a refill which encourages I guess a more recyclable, sustainable practice and behavior, and there are ingredients listed down here as well. So on top of this, the box and the bottle in itself is made up of materials that are highly recyclable, and I would say that in terms of the bottle in itself, initially I was a little bit disappointed with the design. It came across a little bit simple, and yes, it's elegant, it's urban, it's sleek, and it's streamlined, but it was also a little bit underwhelming as well. However, later on I did notice one thing, and I've not seen this talked about or written about anywhere, but this particular bottle, when looked at certain angles, especially from the front, actually presents itself almost like a rectangular bottle that is tilted at a certain perspective. So this play of perspective, if you're familiar with some of the other designs that's been coming out from Hermes, is reflected in its fashion as well as its bags as well. So after I kind of saw this slight shift, I completely love the bottle, and I just think that it's such a fun play and such an elegant way of executing it as well. So now over here I have the travel size edition, and as you can see, it's essentially the same thing but just a smaller replica. So let's move into the character of the perfume. It's supposed to be a high-tech fougere. So what does that really mean? It's meant to be modern, vegetal, and botanical as well. And I think in this respect, the Christine Nagel has definitely captured it in this fragrance. Now let's talk about the notes that has been listed over here. It is supposed to be clary sage, narcissus, rosewood, as well as sclarene. So the last one you may not be so familiar with, and certainly I was not. But so the first two, let's talk about the first two first. The clary sage and narcissus comes through very beautifully in the perfume. It is green, it is fresh, it is airy. It is such a nice scent to have for daytime use, and in all honesty, this is very suitable for both male and female alike. So if you haven't tested it out yet, please have a go. Even if you're a lady, please go ahead. I believe this is quite a refreshing scent for both genders. Now the third note, rosewood, they have found a sustainable source in Peru, and so that's good news. But it's supposed to lend a sort of a gentle woody sweetness to the whole perfume. Now this one I didn't detect as much. It is somewhat there, but it kind of comes and goes, and I wouldn't say that it really highlights itself in any respect at any stage throughout the use of it. The last one, sclarene, it's kind of an interesting element that is added to this perfume. It is supposed to remind one of hot iron pressing itself on wool, which is a nod to the fashion workshops at Hermes in itself when they create their garments. So this note is actually synthetic, and it's supposed to add a certain metallic note to the perfume. Now I will say that when reading it, it does sound quite aggressive almost, but then in actual fact it's almost like a presence. It's almost not there. So I was actually glad, and I think most people were, that when they smelled this, they didn't get so much of the metal coming through. It is less of a note than a real aura or presence that kind of comes and goes. It is pleasant because it does add some modernity to the whole perfume, but it doesn't kind of bury the whole botanical feel of this series. So this particular perfume, I would say, does remind me a little bit of Sur l'Agneau, because with that particular perfume, there is the whole mango note over there. There is a sweetness that comes from the clary sage and narcissus over here that does remind me of that, but it is it's like a tropical fruit sweetness without the dampness to it, and this gives it such a lovely sweetness, which I think is what makes it so suitable for both male and female alike. So those are some of my thoughts for the perfume. In terms of its use, throughout the days, I found it to have a modern sillage as well as a modern spread as well. It lasts for about 6 hours on me, and it kind of holds itself in its own personality throughout that whole period. So it does stay quite true to itself and doesn't shift so much. At least that's for my use. So that's my review of the H24. I think it's really a nice addition to Voyage and Terre. It's a completely new identity. It's fresh, it's refreshing, and I think it's surprising. I think a lot of people will find it very easy to love. And so if you're ever at an Hermes boutique, please feel free to check it out. And that's my thoughts. Thanks for watching.